Welcome to this episode of Lead Conversations. We are glad that you've been able to join us. This is a place where we talk about leadership, and especially leadership in this great continent of Africa. The continent of Africa is a great place with great people, rich minerals, many things that we can talk about, natural features, everything great that we can talk about. But we do have a challenge of leadership. One person said that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so the strength, the future of Africa lies in great leaders across all spheres of our economies. Join me today as I join together with two brothers who are here with me, Dr. Amon Kasambala, welcome to this show.
Thank you so much.
And my brother Kingston Ogango, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure you are delighted to know that you are in for a treat as we talk about this whole theme of, is there hope for leadership in Africa today? And I'll start with you, Dr. Kasambala. Is there hope for leadership in Africa?
Well, Dr. Barin, I think that's a very, very good question. But at the same time, it's a loaded question. First and foremost, thank you for having me in your studio. This conversation centers on the future of Africa. When we ask if there hope for Africa, I think we should not be ashamed to say there is hope, for Africa. That's why we are here. Because if there was no hope, then it would seem like everything is lost. But as we know, we know where the problem is. And, a wise man told me, when you know where the problem is, that is half the problem already solved. So we know where the problem is. And the problem, actually, for me, is not a problem in a sense. It is more like a challenge of having the right kind of leadership. People who can be able to think not only for now and today, but people can also think about tomorrow, about the legacy, about the generation that is coming after them. I think if we can shift our mindset in terms of how we lead and how we look at Africa, I believe that we can be able to change quite a number of things.
Okay.
So I'm saying there is hope, for Africa.
To be fair, we have, in some sectors, we have the right kind of leadership. But by and large, we have leaders who lack certain components that will make the leadership good. When you look at the issues of corruption, when you look at mismanagement of resources, the way they're entitled and the way they treat the people who have elected them or people who have appointed them into those offices, certainly we realize that we have a problem of how they will manage and how they will lead. Because leadership begins with the leader. If the leader is not well primed, then it means they can only rise up to their level. And which means if they are not having the right principles, they don't have the right basis of how they lead in terms of their values, in what they realizing that they're actually there to serve rather than to take away from the people, then definitely we have the wrong people in the offices. Yeah.
Moving on with that same question, Kasambala, you talked about two things, right kind of leaders and a change in our mindset. Tell us a little more about the change of mindset and what that means or what that looks for you.
Okay. I think let's start with the right kind of leadership. Just like, Kingston has said, for me, what worries me is that our leaders do not learn from the past. The question that I have as I do consultancy with a lot of leaders is to say, why can't we learn from the past? Why are we repeating the same mistakes again and again? I mean, all these challenges that we've gone through in Africa are wealth enough, historically speaking, to give us lessons about not what to do as we move into the future. So when we're talking about the right kind of leadership, first and foremost, we need leaders who can be able to say, I think I've learned one or two things, from the past. which I'm not going to repeat, which I should be able to do, differently. Already there, what kicks in is the right kind of mindset. Because, it takes a change of mindset to say, look, I can't do that, I'll need to do that. But this mindset of saying, well, I am the leader, I can do whatever I want to do, even if I'm repeating the same mistakes. I think it's something that has made us, get stuck in the arena, of leadership, in Africa. Be it political, corporate business. It's everywhere. Because sometimes, when you talk about leadership, people just look to politicians.
Yeah.
I live in South Africa. I'm a Zambian.
Yeah.
In both of these countries, corporate has completely, done things which are worrying.
Yeah.
That's the corporate business.
Yeah.
In as much as the politicians have done the same. So leadership is everywhere. It's in the family, it's in the corporate business, it's in the church, but also it's in the political arena. So the change of mindset is first and foremost to say, what do we learn from the past, and how do we move forward, from there?
Learning from the past and moving forward so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Kingston, you have raised a very important element of raising leaders who lead based on their conviction and their values. Where did we get it wrong for all this long?
Well, it's many places. As Dr. Amon has said, we are stuck in the past. We follow the same template, even if it is not wrong. So when a leader comes into your office, he says, this is my time to eat. It's my time to amass. It's my time. And so when we use that kind of template, then people lose out. But if leaders can be people of integrity, they can be people of excellence, they can be people who have a right mindset. We have a limited mindset, the winner takes it all. And the cake, we look at the resources we have like a cake. And so I must take my piece before the whole thing gets finished. But the way I look at what God has given Africa, I see it like a river. And in Africa, we are blessed. One person is washing clothes on one part of the river. The next one is showering or taking a bath in the same water. Another one is watering their cows. Another one is watering their plants on the same river. And so when we see the resources that Africa has been blessed with as a river, then we don't have to have the winner takes it mentality that I must grab my piece as quickly as possible. And then that way we are able to develop the river. So we make sure that every part that passes around us, we are making sure the river is clean, because we know tomorrow we need a cleaner river to take a bath in. We need a cleaner river to wash our clothes. We need a cleaner river for our cows and the cattle and everything else to be watered in. And so that way we ensure that we are managing the resources and stewarding what God has given us better. Yeah.
Moving on, Dr. Kasambala, with that theme, Kingston talked about values. But one of the things he alluded earlier is the whole idea of leading and as a service, serving people. Where did we miss it out so that it got to a point where we think about leadership as self-serving? It's about me, it's about accumulation, it's about what I can get. And how can we correct that? Leaders.
I think that's a good point that we're making here. For me, it's a two-way traffic. There is I'm going to throw in the word accountability. There is an accountability on the part of the leader, he or she who are leading, but there is also an accountability on us who are being led. I think this is where things have gone wrong. Because sometimes, yes, we know this kind of a person, but we deliberately push them into leadership. What makes us think they're going to change their true colors? We've seen their colors. They've grown up, with us. They are part of our community. Of course, there is this hope that, maybe when they're in leadership, they'll change, from being a leopard, to a crocodile, whatever. But it doesn't work. This is what I'm saying. When we look into the past, we've been doing the same thing. So for us, let's go into the political arena. For us who are electorates, those who choose people, to go into leadership, political office, let us ask ourselves, we should also hold ourselves, accountable. How do we elect, these leaders? Have we done some research on their character, on their lives? What mistakes have they made in their past, which can easily be repeated, in the office, when they go there? Or if everybody makes mistakes, because we're not looking for angels here. We're not looking for, perfect people. But some leaders should come and say, look, this is the mistake that I made, and this is how I've corrected it. And therefore, if you choose me, don't worry, because I've corrected it. But we haven't heard that as electorates. We keep on, pushing them there. So that is a lesson, for us. If we are to change Africa leadership landscape, let us start with us who are choosing, these leaders. It could be in the business, in politics, or even in the church ministry. Who are we putting in there to lead us? Secondly, coming to the leader themselves. I think, the temptation is there for somebody, to rush into this position. But I am saying, when you are, as a leader, you are in that position, you need to be accountable. I think time has come, for us to say to leaders, you need to be accountable. You need to come back to us and show what you promised us. Don't wait until after 4 years or after 3 years only to come. No. Every month, after 3 months, we need to see what are you doing. I think, Dr. Barina, in that way, we'll be able to safeguard, the future. My worry here is if we keep on repeating the same cycle, Africa will still remain and lag behind.
It's very interesting that you talk about accountability and letting people be accountable for their past. And as I listen to Dr. Kasambala speak about this, Kingston, I wonder whether, especially for him being a minister, he could be accused of saying, you don't believe that God can change people, so I'm presenting myself, this is what I did, but hey, trust me that I've changed, that I can do things differently.
You mean grace?
Yes.
Yeah. Trust is earned. It's very easy to destroy trust. And so one of the things is we have to ensure that we are telling leaders that we just don't trust you because you say you're trustworthy. Can we see it? Can it be demonstrated? Because it's earned. And so when we see how you steward the resources, how you lead the followers, how you do the things that you're saying you're supposed to do, and because we have given you an opportunity to lead us, can we see it? And so I think one of the things that we as the electorate or we as the followers, we must bring leaders to account. How are they leading us? And when we do that, we're actually helping them to lead us better. And so I think it's just not what they say. What they say and what they do must match. So they're not telling us to do one thing and they're doing a different thing. They must say and do the same thing.
It's very interesting as I listen to both of you and your thoughts. And I'm reminded of a book that I read done by Kellerman. And Kellerman, in a book about bad leaders, she actually blames the followers for bad leaders because they say we tolerate bad leaders, whether it's in a corporate environment, whether it is in politics, wherever you find bad leaders, the followers have a great contribution. How do you explain Africa where we are talking about poverty levels, where we're talking about low illiteracy levels? Could that also be then the contributing factor that makes all these unaccountable leaders to thrive because we do not have mechanisms of helping them? And if that's the case, then how can we change that moving into the future?
What I like about, from yesterday as lead, you've been talking about reimagining, the future. Our leaders today, I think, needs to be taught. They cannot lead the followers as they did, in the past. Why? Because the young generation will hold them accountable. my generation and the past generation could have tolerated. You see, what has made it difficult in the African, and I generalize on this, and forgive me if I'm generalizing, but in many instances, you can see this repeating itself. There is what we call blind loyalty. And that comes from my father's or my grandfather's village. You cannot question the chief on what they're doing. Even when they're doing something wrong, out of blind loyalty, out of so-called respect, you don't question, you just allow them to keep on doing. I am saying, watch out. This new generation is raising a flag and say, we cannot tolerate that. Sir, with due respect, you've made a mistake. So that is the hope. I mean, we talk about the hope. For me, that is the hope. I'm having a lot of hope because at social media, in South Africa, leaders in the past were getting away with small mistakes, but now they can't because in the morning it will be, flagged out, on social media. Leaders don't like it. I mean, I've heard leaders, complaining, it's just too much. It's not respectful. No. Because in the past, in the name of respect, a lot of mistakes, were made at the detriment of our communities, but also at the expense of our children. We cannot allow that. So I am encouraging accountability both sides. I think let's continue holding, like Brother Kingston has said, let's continue holding our leaders, responsible and accountable. And when your electorates are holding you accountable, don't take it personal. Because when you go into the arena of leadership, you are saying there are no secrets. I'm exposing myself. I think that's why the Western world maybe have managed it, where they hold you accountable, and if you're found wanting, you resign, you move out of the way, so that we have a new kind of leadership. So there is hope, Brother Barina. There is hope.
Well, that's very encouraging to know that there is a hope. And Kingston, I would want you to weigh in on this. Dr. Kasambala has talked about the whole use of technology, and how technology is a great tool in terms of holding the leaders to account. How much more can we use technology to bring that hope that we are talking about, so that this continent, with all its greatness and all its riches, can actually reach its highest potential?
I think technology has been one phenomenal way we are beginning to change a lot of things. One, look at government systems. If you need to apply for a passport or a government document, then it's not at the behest of the person who is issuing it, whether they like your face or your tribe or whatever it is. Now you can fill that on a system somewhere, as long as you meet the requirements and you get that. Payments, for example, then you remove the middlemen, the people, the cartels in between. You are sending the money to a certain place. So I think the use of technology, one, it gives quick access. Secondly, it cuts out all these other bureaucracies in between and pockets where people are stealing, because then you are able to employ it much easier. And then the cost also becomes less, because then it means wherever you are seated, in wherever corner of your country, you can be able to transact. And because then you don't have to, in the olden days, people have to travel to the main city to apply for a permit to take their cows from one district to another. Now they don't need to do that. They can apply that online, and they have it online. And so I think technology then becomes the new road that will begin to transform our systems of payment, our structures of accountability, because it brings in accountability. You can't change that system. You've put in a certain amount of money. Somebody can't say you paid less. It's showing, it's evidence. It has sent you a text or an email to confirm what you paid. And so I think there's a lot we can do, and we can employ much more if we can mine the greater good that lies in technology to actually help our systems and processes to ensure that we are managing better our resources and helping our people.
Thank you. That's great. Using technology not only to hold leaders to account, but to advance in the way we interact with each other, how we transact with each other, how we relate with each other, and even how we relate and connect with governments. Dr. Kasambala, as we possibly try and bring this conversation today to a close, I'm thinking of two things. We have clearly said there is hope, and we have avenues that we can use to continue raising leaders who will bring hope to this continent. But I'm asking myself, thinking of myself as possibly a leader, what can I do and how can I be the catalyst or the source of hope for the future? What do I need to do as a leader?
Yeah. I think in my view, leaders should continue developing themselves. Again, looking in the past. What has the past taught us? There were leaders who, once they went into office, whether it's in the corporate business or in politics, they had this "I know it all" type of attitude. I think that's where a lot of mistakes came, because the world is evolving. We cannot lead the way we led in the 50s. We cannot lead people the way we led in the 60s, with due respect. So as a leader, you need to continuously develop yourself. And developing yourself does not mean going to the university only. Developing yourself, like Brother Kingston has mentioned, technology is giving us access to the way to lead properly. Whether you're a corporate executive or you are an emerging young leaders, I mean, there are free lessons out there. I said this, Kingston and Dr. Barina. I wish, when I was at primary school, I had this access, which my two boys have in terms of technology. Everything is there. So if I want to talk about, to know how to communication, there's a course on communication. So what I'm saying, for me, leaders have no excuse. Let's use, the ICT, to develop ourselves continuously. On the way you communicate, with the electorates, if you are in politics. On the way you are leading, the business, if you're a CEO. On the way you are doing ministry, if you're a minister. So everything is there. Secondly, also interacting with people. This thing of pie in the sky, high tower type of leadership no longer works. You can't hide there and then we only see you at the election day. No. We want to see your face every time. And so interact, with the people. If you're in the business circles, know what's going on in the business. So that, because remember, you're leading people. You're not leading machines. So listen to the people. Let them articulate. What's bothering them, the struggles they're going through, the challenges they're going through, and make sense of whatever you are hearing to improve your leadership. So for me, development of personal leaders, I think, is very important.
Well, very profound and well said, that we need to develop ourselves as leaders, but we also need to interact and connect with people. Kingston, I don't know whether there is anything you can add to that. How do we keep on making sure that we lead with hope as leaders?
I think we must be emissaries of hope in every way. But that will also come when we are intentional about improving our infrastructure, in our systems and processes. How do we do things? How do we make it easier? How do we improve on speed and delivery? How do we ensure that people have access? Those who are farmers in the village, how can they take the goods that they have worked on, the crops, into markets, and all that will come when we have leaders. So hope comes because the farmer knows, I'm planting my crops. In a few months, I'll be able to harvest. I have some resources. I can feed my family. I can take my children to school and improve themselves. When we work on infrastructure, we know we have good schools. We have healthcare is taken care of, and many other things, amenities that people must have. And so I think there's a lot of hope for Africa, and we just must hold leaders accountable to become those emissaries of hope, that many will arise from this state of despondency that Africa is in, where people are feeling we do not have much hope for what is going on. I think people must stand tall and look at the way the future looks like, paint the future, and walk into that future with so much confidence, because we know we are able to do it. I believe in Africa, and I know Africa has all potential to deliver on that.
Wow, that's very, very packed statement that you've said right there. Leaders being the agents of hope. And it reminded me of Napoleon's word that leaders are dealers in hope. When you think about being dealers in hope, it means you have an ideal of where you want to take the people. You're able to communicate that vision very clearly to them, and they're able to buy into that direction that you are going. The last question that I want to pose to each one of you as you tell us your parting words, is it that our leaders don't have a vision, or they don't even know how to communicate that vision that is able to bring people to buy into that hope that then would drive engagement? I'll start with you, Kingston.
Well, I don't want to generalize and say our leaders don't have vision. I think there's a good percentage that has a good vision. And a lot of them, when it comes to times of electoral process, they tell us of their vision. They tell us the manifestos, what they hope to see and what they need to do. I think it's the implementation of that vision. How do they move from just a picture of the future, creating things that we can see, to see that vision actualized? And secondly, I think is the consistency of building that hope and getting others to join, because you see, your vision is as powerful as getting your followers to follow through and see, and together we achieve it. So I think one of the things that we as leaders and other leaders in places where God has placed them, in industry, in business, in the religious circles, and wherever else, that the leaders must be able to live their vision by creating processes that will help people join them in that and create an influence. We say leadership is influence, but I think it's just much more than just having influence. It is mobilizing people, inspiring them, and getting them and influencing them towards a certain goal. I think that when we do that, I think then the vision that they have begins to take life and the vision begins to bear fruit.
The same question to you, Dr. Kasambala, with great appreciation to what Kingston has said.
Yeah, it's just picking up what Kingston has ended with in terms of, a leader having people around themselves. Because leaders are not islands. I think that's a mistake that we've seen in some of our leaders, not everyone, but some of our leaders, that when they are leaders, they become islands. They are on their own. No, you are a leader to empower others. You are not packaged with every gift in the world. So, those people who surround you, they have different gifts. So it's your responsibility or your task as a leader to see what kind of gifts would you use at what particular time as you are leading, the people. So for me, a leader who really wants to be effective is a leader who taps into the existing gifts and skills that surrounds, that particular leader.
Yes.
And I think, this is where, the hope comes in. Because, when we talk about electorates, the electorates are now more educated. They are now more exposed. And they're more than willing to be called upon, to help. So we are saying to our leaders, use the talents, use the skills, that you're surrounded with. But also, I want to say about vision. A leader can really have a vision, but you need to articulate it so that it's clear. Clarity is very important when it comes to vision casting. Like you're saying, Keystone, leaders are very good at painting this big, vision picture. This is where the country is going, or this is where the business is going. But sometimes we need to break that down so that, the person down there can understand how, what is expected of them and how that, can be implemented. So clarity of vision is very important, in leadership.
And I think that's a good place for last word, having clarity on the vision for everybody in leadership, so that everybody then can identify their space and what contribution they can make in owning this vision and running it forward. Gentlemen, we cannot thank you enough for these great conversations.
Thank you.
Thinking about leadership in Africa and affirming that indeed there is hope for leaders and leadership in Africa. And we want to encourage you to look out for more episodes that will help you understand that there is hope for leaders and leadership in Africa, and we will be unpacking that in subsequent conversations. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your tuning in.